Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by Francis Family Foundation, Hall Family Foundation, the H&R Block Foundation, Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, John W. and FEE Spies Memorial Trust, Muriel McBrien Kaufman Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Randy Mason.
And I'm Maris Aylward.
Our show is called Arts Upload, and this week it comes to you from the Mattie Rhodes Center Gallery.
The Day of the Dead is here and now, but we'll show you how the new Nutcracker keeps coming together.
Plus some mural making in the Northeast and a poet named Unique.
That and more ahead on The Upload. There's only about 5 weeks left until the curtain goes up on an old favorite that's getting a major makeover.
The Kansas City Ballet's version of the Nutcracker really hasn't changed much in 30 years until now.
We've already looked in on some of the ways they're resetting the stage for this holiday classic.
Scenery, costumes, choreography. The company has big dreams, but that clock is ticking down.
5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rifle. Your attention should be here and not about who's got what hairdo. We need you to stay involved. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go! 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, la, 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 la. All right, girls, can you go back? Go back. No, don't wander off. Cannon and artillery. 7, 8.
Swords, guns, and the cavalry, too. 60 days exactly from opening night finds Devin Carney in the midst of the melee, working out the battle scene with 100 or so of the youngsters he hopes will help make this new Nutcracker particularly memorable.
I really want my Academy kids to look great. I want them to have such a good time and to look so sharp, and that takes a lot of work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go. Certainly there are moments where you're going to have to rally the forces and say, okay, guys, focus, let's get this done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Meanwhile, Holly Hines, who designs the costumes the kids in the company will soon be wearing, is doing a little movement of her own through New York City's Garment District, looking in on some of the mini makers, turning her ideas into reality, like Sarah Timberlake in her shop on 7th Avenue.
This is going to be all one piece, but we're going to make it look like it has a seam.
Great.
We changed the shape to come more straight again.
Okay. Love that all crunched up in there. For Devin, he is not afraid of color, and he wanted a little more life in the palette. You know, Victorian, wherever we are, Prague or whatever, they were more muted colors. It wasn't necessarily jewel tones, and so we've changed that a little bit. We've pumped that up a little bit.
So whether it's an update on hats from her old pal Arnold Levine,
can you put that on?
Yeah, it's going to be too big, but
yeah.
But then I'll wire the brim.
Or elegant frocks for the mothers and grandmothers at Jan Perrin's place.
So we want to go up at least 4 more inches to our scoop. Yeah.
The details of dressing Drosselmeyer at John Christensen's.
This is a beautiful fabric too, Valentina.
Which happens to be the same shop where a certain wooden figure is coming to life.
In the actual physical head.
Holly has made it a point to share the wealth on this ambitious, time-crunched project. It's the kind of built-from-the-ground-up undertaking that even someone with a resume as impressive as hers seldom gets to do these days.
I'm working with a lot of friends. That's one of the best parts of this big project, is that a lot of people, a lot of makers could be brought in, and you could give them small packages, and so nobody felt overtaxed or overburdened, but they all still feel like they have a piece of the nut, so to speak.
It's pretty good.
On the other side of that, I had to tell some people they weren't going to get maybe as much as they wanted. You know, like I know Coco wanted to do Waltz of the Flowers, and I had the maker in Houston doing Waltz of the Flowers, and that was my call of whose strengths would work the best. How many of those you got?
I probably have 3.
There's bling to be accounted for, too. After all, this nutcracker is being built to pop off the stage in every possible way, including the scenic design by Alain Vaez. It, too, is under construction all over the country, most notably at Cobalt Studios in upstate New York, and at this 100,000 square foot facility in the suburbs of Chicago.
We're making all of the legs and borders for the parlor, the scene at the top of the show. All of these legs are painted drapery that are stretched over steel frames so that the portals, as they're flown in and out, will stay nice and taut and then simulate the draped fabric in a way that is repeatable every performance as opposed to just having real drapes. There were also several scenic elements, complex scenic elements they gave us, like a expanding Christmas tree that starts off as a smaller tree in the parlor and then magically grows to almost 30 feet tall. It's a point of spectacle that, when done right, should make the audience gasp or, and give them a little spine tingle of spectacle.
A small spoiler ahead. That incredible growing Christmas tree isn't the only aha moment being built here. A hot air balloon fronted by a unicorn is also one of Ravenswood's deliverables.
The actual balloon itself is 18 feet tall. There has to be room for it to be hidden from the audience. And then it reveals itself and then has to fly away in different directions.
One thing about Devin is you don't have to convince him to go big.
Jeff Bentley says there have been a few "it cost how much" moments, but overall the project has been on budget and so far on time. As for the $2 million price tag, well, nearly all of it was raised in just 6 months.
This is a production that you invest in. And it's the only ballet that you have in your repertoire that you do every year. It's the only one. So you want to make it special. And over the years, audiences in general have started to demand more from the stagecraft. The new technologies are there, and you need to use them.
Of course, it might be easier without so many distractions. All those other things that still have to be done. Whether it's filming a TV commercial, staging the Three Musketeers earlier this month, posing for the new company portrait, or fitting in another fitting with Holly and more of her makers.
There's this whole sort of like pieces of puzzles that are being made independently of each other. Here, there, there. The exciting part is going to happen when we get those they all slot in together. The company, they haven't touched Party Scene. I've got to get them up to speed where the kids are, and then I got to put them all in one room. And we got to really start making a story come to life. Girls, we're going to try a little bit different version of how you start. 1, 2, 5, 6, and 8. 1.
Finally, the day Devin's been waiting for has arrived. T-41. His first chance to bring together the entire cast with the music of Tchaikovsky, in the complex named for the man whose Nutcracker has been our standard for so many years.
I don't want to presume to know what Todd would think, but I know one thing: he would be absolutely proud of the artistic excellence and the care that went into putting on a brand new Nutcracker on the stage for audiences in Kansas City that he essentially began to prepare 30-some years ago. This is a big, big step for Kansas City Ballet.
6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
As opening night nears, we'll keep an eye on all the hubbub at the Bolender Center and Muriel Kaufman Theater. Check it out on the web at kcbt.org.
Since 2011, Scarrett Elementary School in the historic Northeast has been sitting vacant, making it a major target for vandalism.
Facing an uphill battle against graffiti, Kansas City Public Schools turned to Hector Casanova, an instructor in the illustration department at the Kansas City Art Institute.
Producer-videographer Julie Denechet shows us how Casanova's students have been using murals to help transform the building into something the neighbors could point to with pride.
The tip of the finger is really tiny on that one. That's what makes it funky.
All of these individual mural panels, they're being painted here at the Kansas City Art Institute, but eventually they're all going to Scarrett Elementary School.
Sometimes it helps to kind of like do that.
Scarrett Elementary School is a Kansas City public school that has been closed and it's just been shuttered. The doors and windows have been boarded over with just, blank wooden panels. And over the last several years, the school building itself became a magnet for vandalism and graffiti. The most effective way to combat vandalism and graffiti is through murals. The community can recapture a sense of worth and a sense of pride.
Do you think that if you're going to tag, a side of a school building, like, why would you care about tagging a piece of art? But I guess there is, like, a certain respect for the effort that someone puts in.
Yeah. But I mean, do you have photo reference for the actual illustration for the?
I did.
The biggest aesthetic hurdle for me was to figure out a way to get so many different voices, so many different artists to work on the project and still keep the whole thing unified. I came up with this idea of keeping everything unified by using the very limited color palette. Having black and white and then one primary color and then one accent color each time that we do the project. If we ended up with something that was noisy and just did not have any cohesiveness, it would not necessarily be a significant improvement over just the graffiti noise.
So they will put their names on them, you said, or no?
Well, we're gonna have all the names in one of the panels at the bottom.
I love how it's making the community very colorful. It's not just dull and white, and it's not just, when I go on my porch, I don't see just the old school broke down. I see beautiful colors. It's very wonderful. It is.
They pretty much have done a really great job, I think, on the murals. It really livens up, and it's really helped us keep down the graffiti on this school. And I think it brightens up and brings the neighborhood together. And instead of having a school that's just boarded up with ugly-looking boards, now there's you can come up and have a conversation of what that picture means to you.
Still might be some. We were trying to make the school have a big presence like a cathedral would. We looked at medieval art and stained glass of cathedrals, and we wanted something. They have such an enormous power and such an enormous, we wanted to give our mural that power.
Something else that you guys could do, if you could make stencils for the flowers themselves, which it's unfortunate because it's obviously hard and labor intensive to get them to this point and then to kind of backtrack.
People want to be given the opportunity to feel smart, and I encourage my students to treat their audiences like they're smart, to not make their work so transparent and so linear that there is nothing to get.
We wanted to show these different species of animals, humans, ducks, fish, dog, all kind of habitating in this one place and it being peaceful. And the diversity of this biome and this habitat is what makes it livable. And we wanted that to be reflected in the piece that we made.
We think that most people associate jazz with saxophone and piano, so we chose those two symbols. The player himself is kind of imitating a 20s, 30s style of artwork, and we really wanted to base our stylistic choices off of that kind of time period.
There is a little hilltop where a good couple of animals are sitting and looking at the sky together. Above them, there's star constellations that illustrate specific animals and sea creatures like sharks, bulls, monkeys, and dragons even.
Part of the premise of the class is the societal responsibility of being an artist. And that's one of the things that I talk to the students a lot about is, by being an artist, you are basically kind of joining this sort of like elite force where you are developing skills and talents so that you may have access to people's brains through their eyes. With the access to so many people, there comes a great deal of power and responsibility of making the world more beautiful.
There's so much we can do as artists to influence children and to influence how they see the world and to change how people see the world, to open everybody's minds. I think art really does that. It'll be a great great success for everybody that lives around there. It'll be a lot of inspiration, a lot of hope.
There's a really great sense in doing something that helps other people. And at first I didn't know if I was necessarily going to get a lot out of that, because at first it's an assignment and you're kind of slogging through it, but now that I'm thinking about it, the more I think about it, the more I find it really rewarding in a way that I didn't expect.
It has completely changed the feel of that part of the neighborhood. Just that intersection is just so bright and beautiful, whereas before it was just an abandoned building, a big, big abandoned building with graffiti on it.
Here on Arts Upload, we've made it a point to put poets in the spotlight.
This will be our youngest one yet. Unique Hewley is a 2014 graduate of the Paseo Academy.
Working with producer-videographer Justin Bond, he's picked a piece to perform he calls Shoes.
Nobody notices shoes falling fiercely from the night sky, but it's okay. Because Father Time will rename night at day, and then day will drop more shoes aimed at the dreamers of the day, the sleepwalkers of the morning. The shoes will fall fiercely from the night sky, and hopefully you will notice us atop of some petrified building crumbling next to gargoyles that escape night terror and reside in stone, resurrected alone. Look up and notice us standing on ledge, a generation generated by mass media, manipulated by Medusa, hiding behind TV screens that create clones, stoned and cold-hearted with phones that play songs, that right wrongs into trends, that calls us to ascend towers, and after hours we transcend into gargoyles ready to devour heights of life without wings. So we fall, hoping you would be there to catch us in your knot, so we break at your feet as you cautiously step over our shattered limbs, hoping not to ruin your good shoes and puddles of our broken hearts and ruptured your spines. You say somebody should have taught them better. Their generation, as if we haven't been trying to fit the shoes left for us in the place of parents that reside on milk cartons missing, as if growing up was something we were told to do on our own, did not recognize our shoes on the ground next to broken bottles as warning cries for help. As we crawled barefoot in the bed, we bled silently through the night as gargoyles gave hugs in pitch dark rooms. A flower bloomed in stone which symbolized our metamorphosis. We were scared to be alone, so we adapted to a world we knew as cuts and bruises, as we watched monsters with medical degrees stitch up scars given to us by the judgments of past generations who condemned our mistakes, which we fed to monsters under our beds whose demon tongue spew lucid dreams and talk down on reality for never noticing our demise. They never really did notice the shoes falling fiercely from the sky, did they? Even in broad daylight, so we learned to pick our individualities out of deconstructed anatomies mixed in chaos like tangled shoelaces on grounds. We become bound to Air Jordans with stripes. Well, in fact, when we grow old and the next generation unfolds and shoes begin to fall from on top of petrified buildings again, we will be there to talk them down from the heights of life that will attempt to conquer in shoes that are way too big, that became hand-me-downs way too early, causing us to trip and fall over shoelaces we were never taught to tie. You're right. We are a generation tripping over obstacles left behind by the ones that came before ours. And although we were taught to act our age and not our shoe size, we gamble around in clown shoes given to us half past birth. I just ask, before you condemn my generation to a shoeless, soulless earth, just try taking a walk in our shoes.
This has become such a tradition. I hardly have to tell you where we are. It's year 17 now for the Dia de los Muertos celebration at the Mattie Rhodes Gallery here on the West Side.
All month long, they've been observing the season with this exhibition, as well as workshops and classes for mask making and building altars.
And it's not over yet. On November 6th, there's a closing parade complete with a Stone Lion Puppet Theater.
Of course, all year long, the gallery stays busy highlighting and showcasing the work of Latino artists. It's part of the Mattie Rhodes Center, which offers various child and family services for the community.
As we wrap our show up this week, we're heading to Ohio to see a place where it's still pretty much 1888 and the human touch still matters.
Beck and Orr Bookbinders in Columbus, Ohio specializes in repairing and restoring written works, many of which have been handed down for generations.
Well, what in the heck is bookbinding? Beckenor is located here in the Westgate area, out on the hilltop. Well, we started at Staten 3rd, is right there where the Hyatt on Capitol Square is. And that was the original place in 1888. And now we've been out here for the last 25 years. Our customers are anybody that needs to have thesis bound, old Bibles bound.
Now, I'm gonna tell you what, this is old. To tell you the truth, it's really not in bad shape, except for the outside. I can't read German, so I don't know. Oh, 1765. So this one here has been around a while. And look at how they got that on the back, B-I-B-L-I-A.
We hand set and do everything by hand, which you don't hear about that too much in these days of changing ways. We still do the hand foil stamping the way we used to back in the old days. We hand set our type.
If you want to know the truth, it don't even look like this here goes to a Bible, but it says the Al 1930. And when I opened it up, I said, well, here's the Holy Bible. And I've never really seen one like that. What I'm doing here is I'm taking getting the covers off of there and cleaning this here back all off of the old glue and so forth.
What we do hasn't changed that much. We're a hand bindery, and we sew all of our stuff so you don't have to worry about it falling apart. We'll salvage the spine if that's, if we can do that. We'll also save the front and back covers. If the spine is not salvageable, then what we'll do is take a piece of leather and fold it, bring it over, and stamp it, with Holy Bible, maybe the family name.
I'm gonna finish cleaning this off. We'll re-glue it. We'll put a back on it. This here where it's loose here on the ends and so forth, I'll re-sew these here sections back into the book. We'll put the covers back on, and then we'll take, and this is not leather, but I'll probably take a piece of green leather and bring up over here like this here, and bring it around the back. You can see this tape here and so forth, and they put this here duct tape on now, and when they put the duct tape on, I tell you what, that's like, and if I can, I'll lift this here up. The only trouble is I've got this here sad looking stuff here that I hate to, leave showing. It'll be an iffy proposition.
Those big family Bibles are a lot of work. I mean, they really are. Time consuming, but like I say, when we get done with them, they are in very, very good. It's like a piece of old furniture that is now restored and you can display it in your house. You don't find shops anymore in these days like this. You get to work with your hands and your machines, and you're not doing one thing all the time, every day. You get to kind of create and make something for somebody, and at the end of the day, they're going to be happy with it. At least 99% of the people. Well, at one time, we was a union shop, and we had about 15 to 16 people. It's just been me and my dad ever since. Well, my dad started in '59, and the year I was born, and they said I was destined to do this.
One day at summer camp, I was in the National Guard. One day at summer camp, my wife called me and said, Bob over back in Orcall wants to know if you want to go to work for him over there. Mr. Beck died. you know, would you want a job? And I said, well, you know, and in the union, they always said, if you want to really be a bookbinder, work at Beck and Orr. So I said, okay. So I went there in '59 and never knew it was going to last this long. I guess it's in my blood and I didn't know it.
Well, we got a couple cutting machine that is probably from the 1930s. The way they were built back then, they stand the test of time. It's a unique business and it's just fantastic working with my dad.
If you find the printed word fascinating, you'll want to watch Arts Upload in January when we catch up with calligrapher Michael Saul.
But for now, our time is up. Thanks to Maddie Rhodes for helping us prove that Kansas City is America's creative crossroads.
Till the next time, I'm Randy Mason.
And I'm Maris Aylward. Thanks for watching.
Go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. All right.
Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by Francis Family Foundation, Hall Family Foundation, the H&R Block Foundation, Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, John W. and FEE Spies Memorial Trust, Muriel McBrien Kaufman Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.